And so the architecture comes in because your vision for this is that a dedicated structure would exist where the bodies are piled up and composted, and people would visit respectfully, meaningfully, and be, participant in the process?
Yeah, I try not to use the word piled up when talking
Well, I was
about
going to ask you, I mean, like this, that is precisely the next question is, they're going to just be in a pile, essentially, right? Are they going to be, like, next to each other?
They're not going to be next to each other or in a pile.
Okay.
But that's a great shot you've got there of livestock composting. And so that's the science right there. When you take our bodies, which are full of nitrogen, and you mix them with carbon material like wood chips and sawdust, that's a wonderful thing that happens right there. We turn into soil quite quickly, in fact. What I did then is take that idea and fine-tune it for the urban setting and then more importantly for the human experience, because of course that kind of situation doesn't resonate for us. That's for animals.
But in an urban setting, there's very little space to begin with. So,
Exactly.
I mean, part of the problem is we don't have vast cemetery space left.
Precisely.
So how much space are you proposing, how much space would be necessary to service a city like Seattle?
Well, it's important to know that every one of these facilities, and in essence, they're a beautiful building with landscaping grown from the deceased themselves. Each one of these buildings would be designed by a different architect and a different designer. They're supposed to belong to the community to which they reside in. So it's a little bit like, I like to think of a library branch, where they look and feel different, but the system inside is the same. So in this case, the system is a two-story core, and at the top of the core, the living lay the dead into a mixture of wood chips and sawdust. And this is one at a time with a ceremony, and the friends and family would be partaking in this experience. And I think that's another thing we've lost culturally is the importance of being close to the event of death. As hard as it is, I think it's important for us when we're grieving to be part of that experience of saying goodbye to a loved one.
Yeah. And what's also interesting about this to me is it seems to connect to the decline of religion in American society. As more people come out and say, I'm atheist, they may be looking for an alternative, I don't know, routine for the afterlife. And you would seem to provide that answer. Is that something you were thinking about when you were designing the Urban Death Project?
Definitely. The couple of things that sort of led to this project were, number one, the environmental toll that our existing options take. It wasn't even just me feeling like I wanted to be greener in the afterlife, so to speak, but it was more a feeling of that's not meaningful to me. To bury my body embalmed with formaldehyde-laden fluid in a casket, in a concrete grave liner, it just didn't have meaning for me personally. And I think that's true for many Americans and many people around the world, in fact.